There it is, friends. Arguably the weirdest week of your fantasy basketball season. It's week 8. It's NBA Cup semis and quarters week. Not in that order. Which means the schedule doesn't get set until later in the week, which is weird and annoying, and we will react to it as best we can. I'm Dan Bespris. You can find me on Twitter at Dan Bespris. Thanks for watching, hanging, everybody. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Got to keep growing this thing. That's the way that we can cover the gap between what the podcast makes for Dan Bespris and what Dan Bespris pays people to watch his children. Thank goodness for public school, am I right? Man alive. What am I forgetting? Oh, the show's brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook, and of course, we are a proud member of the Believe network of podcasts. Again, like, rate, subscribe, FanDuel, Believe, Dan Bespris. I think that's it. I think that's all the stuff we wanted to talk about. So quickly, I want to go through the injury report for the week. I don't want to spend much time on this because the NBA Cup stuff is sort of the big dark cloud, bright cloud, whatever you want to, I don't know how you feel about it, hanging over the proceedings. So we'll do what we usually do. We'll share the player page, and we'll just go through basically anybody that has a tag on their name, and we'll let you know what you need to worry or not worry about them. Here we go. And we'll start at the top. We'll sort it by rank. Wemby, you're not playing him until he actually comes back. Shea sounds like he's probably just getting a day off on Sunday. We'll obviously know more by their next ball game, which is Wednesday. Oh, man, it's going to be a weird week. I mean, it's just a nice opportunity for them. Like, Oklahoma City plays Sunday, but by skipping it, then they're able to give Shea 4 days off before the next ball game and rolling right into a very light week. So it's kind of an opportunity to catch up a little bit. Tyler Hero, we're still waiting on a final little piece of information on his toe thing. We don't have the results of his imaging from Saturday yet, as of recording this show on Sunday. So if you're in a weekly league, he's a guy you probably hold out. Steph, you're holding out. Lauri Markkanen earlier this morning got downgraded to illness. So I would assume that he's probably going to be okay for the coming week. Although, again, like there's a lot at play here. Utah has a one-gamer, so that's a tough one to throw at you, even if he's healthy. And Jimmy Butler, questionable. Warriors have a game later on today. Hopefully we'll get more information on old Jimmy Butt by later on in the afternoon, because after that, they don't play until Friday. So if he doesn't play on Sunday, you probably just hold him out at that point and pray. Cat got downgraded to out first thing on Sunday morning. This kind of came out of nowhere. I don't know if this is just like, this is an early game, so we don't want to deal with it, but it's some calf soreness. I don't know what to tell you on that one. They play on Tuesday as part of, is that one of the NBA Cup games? I think so. Honest to goodness, no, maybe it's not. That's not NBA Cup. Something else. I truly don't know what to tell you guys on this one. I think, he's good enough where you try to push through, but taking a 0 this week is especially rough because it's such a light week for games. All right, let's move a little bit faster. I really want to spend time on the NBA Cup stuff. Porzingis, I don't know how you play him on any week, but Atlanta doesn't play until Friday, so I think you can probably assume you're going to get at least one out of him, so probably yes. I don't know, man. Alperen Şengün, they don't play until Thursday this week. Everybody's got a wonky schedule, and he missed their back-to-back Friday, Saturday. It's a one-gamer, so probably safer to just say no. Drew Holiday is a no. D'Anthony Melton, not a guy that you're playing anyway. Franz Wagner, and the reason I kind of buried the lead a little bit, he left this Sunday game. Magic and Knicks had the early game on Sunday. He left early with a gnarly-looking knee injury where it didn't fold up. It actually folded the right way when he landed, like the knee bent the way a knee's supposed to, but it bent like all the way back underneath him. And so he Gumby. Does anybody remember Gumby and Pokey? I got to date my audience. So his leg kind of Gumby wrapped underneath him, but at least it wrapped the right way is my only hope. It didn't look good. It was significant and a lot looked weird as he landed, but And it was a contact injury. So weird kind of contract. It's an awkward landing. He was going up for a jam or a layup and then got blocked from behind and sort of I think there was a little clipping and then the balance and the so on. I mean, you're obviously not playing him for this week, but if you're thinking about the bigger picture, Orlando, Miami, they do have one of the NBA Cup games on Tuesday. Knicks and Raptors is the other NBA Cup game on Tuesday. So there wasn't a lot that happened in Orlando when Paolo was out. Wendell Carter Jr. got a little bit of a bump. And not like a massive one. Anthony Black got a bump. Tristan De Silva got a little bump. Mostly it was Franz and Jalen Suggs and Desmond Bane doing extra stuff. And I feel like that's going to be the same this way, where you just replace Franz's name with Paolo's name because who was hurt. But you can keep an eye on De Silva, see if he floats back into the stream zone. You can keep an eye on Wendell Carter Jr. if he floats back into the burger or stream zone. I don't think you need to go out and do anything other than right now just like hoping that Franz is okay. Giannis is out for probably 3 to 4 more weeks. Isaiah Hartenstein is out until somebody tells us he's not. We keep on going. Alex Sarr, he'll probably be back this week, but I'm not willing to risk it. It's a 2-gamer, so that's a decent one actually this week, but I wouldn't push my luck. Aaron Gordon, no. Emmanuel Quickley. I didn't hear anything about Emmanuel Quickley. Oh, illness, questionable for Sunday. I was going to say I didn't hear any injury stuff. It's an illness. So you'll play him this coming week, presumably in what we assume will be a 2-game week. Donovan Clingan, they play a little bit later on today. I'm recording the show on Sunday, kind of late morning. I would hope that Clingan's back. Doesn't sound like his thing is super serious. Not man, bear, pig serious, that's for sure. But Portland has a 2-game week coming up. And again, there's 3 more days off. So I think you probably are okay there, but you certainly will get more information by later on here on Sunday. Trey Jones, you're not going to play unless he's in anyway, so that one would make that one more simple. And now we're into that part where it's like, look, if they didn't play in their last ball game, you're not going to play him in the next one. So that's Domantas Sabonis, LaMelo Ball, Kelly Oubre. Paul George is expected to play on Sunday for Philadelphia. Their 2-game week is towards the end of this week, so I would play Paul George. I'm going to skip over Matisse Thybulle, doesn't belong there. Jared Allen, you don't play until he's back. Same story for Sam Merrill. And literally everybody from this point on, you're just not playing them unless they're actually healthy and don't have the worst possible schedule this week. Is there an update on RJ Barrett I haven't seen? No, still out. Joel Embiid, I think, got updated to expected to play against the Lakers. Everybody wants to play against the Lakers. That's the primetime show. So, I mean, again, you can probably play him. I don't think he's very good, but you can probably play him. Gafford's a no. Eason's a no. Davion Mitchell missed the last one, so I would probably sit him. These guys just aren't good enough to take a chance on him. Time Lord, not unless if he plays on Sunday, it's a little bit of a different thing. But if he's back to being the backup again, meaning if Donovan Clingan plays, then that flips him back to probably a no. Diabate, what's going on with Musa? Oh, right knee soreness. That's another one that I didn't know about going in. Again, these are streamer level guys. Is there anyone in here that requires our attention? Kobe White requires our attention. I'm hoping he plays on Sunday. He was off Saturday. If you can't play every other day, we got a real problem on our hands. He doesn't play again until Friday. After that, I would play Kobe White. I think he probably gets into both games this coming week. And I think that's probably as far as we need to go on the injury board. Is there anybody else here that's notable? Not really. These guys are all streamers, other than Zion, who's the punt guy way down here. Everybody else is just stream level anyway. Screw them if they can't take a joke. Colin Sexton actually could be kind of interesting if he can work his way back. He's not back today. He's dealing with a quad thing, and if he gets back before LaMelo Ball, then he might be notable. But again, this is you're not going out of your way for this stuff. The more important stuff, and we'll zoom in a little bit, and let's see here. I want to make sure that let's go full screen mode. Switch on over. Okay, so here it is. I haven't filled out week 9 yet, and you can see it says week 9 incomplete over here, YouTubers. I also forgot to change the color coding, so you guys can watch me do that in real time, because what's wonderful video podcasting if not watching the host change colors in real time? There we go. All right, so Here's the thing. Let's just go through this team by team. We're going to do all 30 teams one by one, and we're going to tell you what they got going on and what you guys should be doing about it. Because streaming this week is extremely consequential in head-to-head leagues because there's a massive gap between the bad and the good. Every game is a massive gap because look at the games played. For that, let's start with that, actually. Monday through Thursday, there's a grand total of 11 games, with 4 of them, the bulk of them, being on Thursday. It goes 3-2-2-4 to start the week, and then it'll be 7-2, probably 8 to finish the week. So at least Friday, Saturday, Sunday is a little bit heavier. Not Saturday, I guess, but like at least you're getting, what's that average out to, about 6 games-ish per day over the end of the week. At the beginning of the week, you're under 3 games per day. Still, that doesn't really matter. Point is, just from hearing those numbers, you know that early week streams are going to be very, very important. And you can see it, and I'll zoom out a little bit here because honestly, like the more you guys can see on the screen right now, the better. I'll make it a little bigger. I'll make my face a little bit smaller. This is, I don't know if there's a more important week for streaming the entire calendar year than this one. Actually, let's get into all that in just a second. First, it's promo time here on this show. You guys know everything that I've got is in the show description. So I would ask you to please go venture into the show description. And while you're on your way there, hit the like button. That's always very important for us. Hit the subscribe button. That's very important for us as we continue to try to build this thing here at Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Like, rate, subscribe. Like, rate, subscribe. That's big. Find me on Twitter at Dan Vespers, because everything we're doing here, we tend to do over there. Actually, this preview show, we don't really do as much on Twitter. It's hard to condense this into tweetery stuff. So in the show description, you'll find a few key things. You'll find a whole bunch of free stuff. My Twitter is free. iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, all that stuff is free. The Discord is free, where I do some of our recaps. I still have a Blue Sky account. I don't use it all that much because it seems like everybody's kind of gravitated back to Twitter. I have an Instagram account that I don't really know how to use, so you can mostly ignore those. You can see the awesome folks that did our logo and our beats here on the show. My dude Slick Rock, that's been doing the beats for stuff that I've worked on for years now. The Google Sheet is the best free thing that I can offer to you guys. In fact, the streaming calendar that you're seeing on your screen right now is in the Google Sheet. It's the third tab in. It's completely free. Again, I'm trying to keep everything for free forever. I think that's how the world of fantasy basketball is gravitating. And this is not me like saying that there's a right or a wrong way. I just think that this is what most of you want, and I'm trying to get to that point. So here's all this stuff that I've been working on that's still free. It's going to be free this season and next season, so it'll be 3 full seasons here at Old Man Squad. But the way that we get there, as we've talked about before, is those of you that are signing up for Patreon and YouTube memberships. That is actually really important. It's only 99 cents. It costs you literally like as close to nothing as you could possibly get. And it gets us closer to being able to pay all of our childcare stuff. So I'm very confident that by the end of next season, we will be a net neutral here in this household. But I do need your help to get there. So if you have an opportunity to sign up for a YouTube membership, please do so. It's 99 cents. Patreon membership, 99 cents. You get the same thing out of it, which is access to me. You can send me a note on Patreon if you need to. You can post on the shows on YouTube if you'd like. If you post a comment, I'll see it because I can sort by members, and I'll get back to you. Members that have done it already, you've seen. I've gotten back to you. Not lightning fast. I'm not going to be on call for 99 cents, but it's pretty quick. So please check that out. Thanks again to our buddies over at FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook for their continued support. They are our presenting sponsors here at Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. And if you're going to get down on any ball games, that's the place to do it. What do they got going on at FanDuel right now? I don't know. My internet's not loading fast enough. I was going to tell you, but my internet's too stinking slow. You can live bet Knicks and Magic right now. Knicks are 6.5-point live favorite. What's coming up later on today? Nuggets 10.5-point road favorites. What's the line on that Lakers where's that Lakers? Where's the Lakers Sixers game? There we go. Lakers 3.5-point road favorites on the Sixers. That's with PG and Embiid likely to play. I mean, Maxi's going to go big. He'll go big in that game. Okay, so this week is a mess. You can see from looking at the board what the different teams have. Atlanta, 2-game week late in the week. Brooklyn, same thing. Boston, a 1-game week. Charlotte, Chicago, Cleveland, they all have the same schedule as Atlanta and Brooklyn, which is Friday, Sunday. Dallas is a one-gamer. Denver is a one-gamer. Detroit is a one-gamer. Golden State has 2. Houston has 1. Indiana has 3. Clippers 1. Lakers probably 2. Pending. That's pending, but we'll see. Miami probably 2. Milwaukee 2. Minnesota 3. New Orleans 3. New York probably 2. OKC probably 2. Orlando probably 2. You notice I'm saying probably, and we'll explain that in a minute. Philly has exactly 2. Phoenix might have 3, actually. Portland 2. Sacramento 3. San Antonio might have 3. Toronto probably has 2. Utah has 1, and Washington has 2. So, first of all, biggest takeaway, nobody has more than 3 games. Second biggest takeaway, quite a few teams only have 1 game this coming week, and I will color code those. You know what? I was going to do it when this was done, but I'll do it now. So the 1-gamers are Boston, Denver, Houston, and I'm not going to color code the teams that are in the NBA Cup as a 1-gamer because that could still flip in a different direction. Who's the other ones here? No, not Toronto. Unchecked Toronto. Utah. Who am I missing? I feel like I'm missing somebody. Did I overshoot it? This is why I probably should have done this before we went on air. In any event, there's quite a few teams, at least 5 or 6 teams that have only 1 game, and there might end up being more, depending on how the NBA Cup gets scheduled out. So, 1-gamers, a bunch of them. Utah is definitely a 1. And here's the other thing. You have to look to see who's in the NBA Cup. You can Google it if you want, if you forget. Who is in the NBA Cup quarterfinals? It's all the teams that are playing on Tuesday and Wednesday. The quarterfinals are Heat Magic and Knicks Raptors on Tuesday, Suns Thunder, and Lakers Spurs on Wednesday. So those 8 teams that right now, either depending on what schedule board you're looking at, either look like they have 1 or look like they have 2 games, that number might fluctuate as the week goes. So like Toronto, if you look at the schedule right now, they're only scheduled for a game on Tuesday. If they win that game, they play Saturday. If they lose that game, they probably play Sunday. For whatever reason, I don't know why the schedule makers did it this way. I think it's like whoever is favored. No, New York is favored over Toronto. New York is scheduled for a game with Miami on Sunday, but that game could end up being Saturday because it could be Toronto and Orlando that go on Sunday. So the NBA is just trying to tell us like how many games there are likely to be, even if we don't know exactly who's going to be in them yet. But that's why we highlighted a team like Boston, who's not in the NBA Cup, but only has 1 game scheduled this week because they're not going to have anything change the rest of the way. Does that make sense? Oh, Dallas is another 1-game week. Missed them as I was scrolling through. I think there's one other, and Detroit. See, I knew I was going to miss a couple. I got to go slower. We got to go slower while we're doing this one. So those are all your 1-gamers. Boston, Dallas, Denver, Detroit, Houston. I swear I'm missing somebody else. The Clippers. Freaking Clippers. They suck. The Clippers, the Grizzlies, the Jazz. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right. I think it was 8. And I was sitting at 5 or 6. I'm like, I'm missing somebody here. On the flip side, you have a handful of teams that are definitely playing 3 games. Sacramento is playing 3 games. They're not in the NBA Cup, so nothing about them is changing. New Orleans, Minnesota are also definitely playing 3 games. And Indiana is definitely playing 3 games. That is, by the way, a colossal advantage. So the first thing you should do when you're looking at this week is understand whose schedule is changing and whose schedule is not changing. There are 8 teams, the teams playing on Tuesday and Wednesday, whose schedules for the rest of the week are not set yet. We will talk about those 8 teams momentarily. I want to talk about the 22 teams whose schedules are set for the rest of the week first. Most notably, the teams with only 1 game. So Boston, 1 game on Thursday. Dallas, 1 game on Friday. Denver, Thursday. Detroit, Friday. Houston, Thursday. Clippers, Thursday. Memphis, Friday. And Utah, Friday. meaning none of those teams that you just heard plays Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. Meaning you probably want to abandon ship on stream level guys on those teams. And frankly, if you're like not near the top of your head-to-head league and a rough week 8 and or week 9 could derail you, you might end up having to drop somebody who's fringe startable in addition to folks that are fringe streamable, meaning that one click higher on the board. You might have to drop a guy who's ranked like 99th, even if it's a guy you wanted to hold the entire year, because if you're going to lose this week, and you're in bad shape already, you may be stuck. What I'm thinking of when I say these names, like, let's talk about the 8 teams one by one. For Boston, someone like a Jordan Walsh. He's been playing great, but you can't hold him for a 1-game week. And if you're in dire straits, and I hate to say this one because it kills me, and I love the way he's been playing, and I want to hold him the entire year, but if you're in dire straits, you might be stuck dropping Nemiash Keita. He's number 82 in 9-cat. This is like a very legitimate 7th round startable guy, but if you're getting creamed, you might have to drop a guy who's a 7th rounder because you just can't afford to take 1 game. Now, please don't do that unless you absolutely have to, but these are weeks that can screw you up pretty good. Like, you might only have 8 more weeks of regular season head-to-head basketball coming up for your fantasy. Dallas is another really good example of this. Right now, Ryan Nembhard is playing his butt off. I don't know if you can hold him for a 1-game week. Najee Marshall, I wouldn't hold him for a 1-game week. Anthony Davis, Cooper Flagg, I might argue those are the only 2 guys that you really need to hold for a 1-game week on Dallas. I know PJ Washington's been particularly hot lately, but like he's typically an outside the top 100 kind of guy. And Najee Marshall is typically, he's been filling in for PJ, and then he actually continued to start over, I think it was Max Christie who took that starting job. Like, these are probably top 100 guys or better. Ryan Nembhard's been rolling way better than top 100. Can we afford to hold these guys in a week where you might lose? Denver, I don't know that anybody is all that close to the cut line. Cam Johnson, like, he's been good since everybody got hurt, but can you afford to lose? Detroit, you're certainly not rostering anybody beyond, like, you could probably drop Asar Thompson in a 1-game week. He hasn't been very good all season long. I wish that I had better things to say about him, but he's been pretty bad. He's number 166. 12, 6, and 3. He'll obviously, these guys are going to get picked up. That's the problem with it. But like Cade, Jalen Duren, and then maybe Asar because you're worried someone else is going to get him. These are the guys that you hold on through this type of week. So I think you guys get the gist. Houston, like, if we want to go one by one, the guys that you absolutely definitely are holding on Houston are Şengün, Kevin Durant, Amen Thompson, but like Jabari Smith Jr. is fringe level enough where you could probably drop him in a 1-game week. Reed Shepherd, I would try to hold on to. He's number 60 on the year now. Let's keep going. Clippers. Kawhi, Harden, Zubats. Only players you need to hold for a 1-game week. Grizzlies. Zach Edey, Jaren Jackson Jr. And, I guess you're holding on to an injured Ja Morant, but I don't think anybody else on that team needs to be held for a 1-game week. Utah's the last one. Keontae George, Lauri Markkanen. Those are the only guys. Not Nurk. You don't need to hold Nurk for a 1-gamer. So there's some guys up above that I mentioned that are a little more fringy that, like, obviously if you can hold on to guys like Keita and Nembhard and PJ and Cam Johnson, you certainly try to do it. But there's a lot of names on these 1-game week teams that you probably should consider dumping. Also notable, a lot of the 2-game teams, as we've talked about, don't go until Friday, Sunday. So if you have a streamable guy on any of these 2-game week teams that don't play early in the week, meaning non-NBA Cup 2-gamers, which is effectively Atlanta, Brooklyn, Charlotte, Chicago, Cleveland, Golden State, Milwaukee, slightly less so, Philly, Portland, and Washington. It's too many teams for me to go over one by one. You could get rid of players on those teams also and then scoop them back up towards the end of the week. Which, and after going through all of this information, makes me realize I actually should have presented this week in reverse. Normally, we talk about the worst schedules of the week because they are in shorter supply, and then we pivot back into the better schedules. But normally we do that because there are only usually 3 or 4 bad schedules during a week, and there's usually many more 3 and 4 game weeks that you can move into. This week is the flip of that, where everybody has a terrible schedule this week, and only a handful of teams have good schedules. So we'll present it to you in reverse. You should be looking at the good schedules this week and figuring out how you can get to them without giving up much. The good schedules, of course, would be Indiana. I think we talked about this. 4 teams: Indiana, Minnesota, New Orleans, and Sacramento. Those teams have 3 games this week. If you can get to those teams, especially Sunday, like if I drop this show early enough, yeah, I mean, I'll put this show out on Sunday so you guys have time to think about it. If you can pivot to those teams on Sunday and not even use one of your week 8 moves, even bigger win. But I would also say that you should include a team like Phoenix and San Antonio. Those teams play on Monday and then have an NBA Cup game on Wednesday. So they're going to get you 2 games over the first 3 days this week. Forget 3-game week or 2-game week, because we don't know. If they lose their NBA Cup game on Wednesday, they might play Sunday. They could also get pushed back to next Monday, which is a weird one. But if they win their game on Wednesday, let's say the Spurs beat the Lakers. I don't think Phoenix is beating OKC, but let's say it. Then they'd get a 3rd game on Saturday, which leaves you an opening to make a move on Sunday and turn that into a 4-game slot in your roster. That's a huge win. So you can actually tack on 2 more teams to the 3-game week bucket, not because they're necessarily going to have a 3-game week, but because they have the potential to have a 3-game week. And even if they don't, they get off to a good start. So let's throw Phoenix and San Antonio in the good bucket. Let's make it like a good-ish. We'll color code them like a almost teal to say, look, these could be as good as the green color-coded teams, but we don't know if they're going to be. So now you start to think about who is actually streamable on these clubs. So let's go, and we'll start up at the top with Indiana. Indiana does actually have a lot of stream-level guys. It's been the way they've gone. The guys that should be on all rosters are Jay Huff, Pascal Siakam, Andrew Nembhard, Benedict Mathurin, and I think that's it for the definitely. But then they've got these streamable guys. TJ McConnell is a nice schedule-level stream. Isaiah Jackson is a schedule-level stream. You could probably argue that, and he's questionable, but Ben Shepherd has been playing more lately. He's probably like a very low schedule level streamer. Jarris Walker is a much lower tier schedule level streamer. So you've got some pretty good names to choose from on Indiana if you wanted to schedule stream that way. Minnesota is not a team that has a ton of schedule level guys. They have sort of their top 5, top 6 even, and then there's this massive drop off. So 6 guys are playing 28 minutes or more on this team, and then nobody else is over 17. So Minnesota, there just isn't really a stream guy. New Orleans does have stream level dudes. Jose Alvarado is a stream level guy. Bryce McGowan's is a stream level guy. I mean, I would argue that Jeremiah Fears is a stream level guy, but he's also probably rostered in most head-to-head leagues because of this sort of the youth, the upward trajectory kind of stuff. But New Orleans gives you 3 options. Sacramento is the other team that starts with 3 games. Malik Monk, stream level guy. Maxime Renaud should be picked up. If Dennis Schroeder comes back at some point, he'd be a stream level guy. I think I could even argue that Precious Achiuwa is a lower tier stream level guy, but he's probably kind of nuzzling up against it. And then let's tack on the 2 extra teams, because Phoenix and San Antonio might honestly be your best options for stream level guys this week. Because Phoenix, you're starting, because Colin Gillespie's been a start. Devin Booker and Jalen Green being out makes that one a very simple one, along with Dylan Brooks and Royce O'Neal and Mark Williams. But if you're looking at like the last couple of weeks, who's been good enough to start on Phoenix in a stream? Ryan Dunn is streamable. Jordan Goodwin is streamable. That might be as far as you go. Yeah, those 2. San Antonio, the entire team is stream level. I exaggerate a little bit, but if he plays Luke Cornett, Julian Champagny, Keldon Johnson, Harrison Barnes, Dylan Harper, Jeremy Sohan, these guys are all schedule level guys and all considerations for the beginning of this coming week. But let's say, because if you go to one of those first 4 teams we talked about, they have a 3-game week. At that point, you could probably just leave them alone. Because all 4 3-gamers play on Sunday. Most of them play Friday. 3 of them play Friday, Sunday? No, I guess half and half. 2 of them are Thursday, Sunday. The other half are Friday, Sunday. Like, if you pick up a 3-gamer, you're going to hold them all the way to the end of the week. So that gives you moves to use on different roster slots. You can go to someone else. But let's say you wanted to go to one of the San Antonio streamers because they're just better. So you play them against New Orleans on Monday. You play them against the Lakers on Wednesday. If they win, you can hold them through Saturday to get a 3rd game. If they lose, you have to wait and find out if the Spurs extra game, the unscheduled, this is basically the losers bracket games from the NBA Cup. Those teams need to get an extra game in because right now they're only scheduled for 81. They only have 81 on their calendar right now. If we find out it's going to be Sunday, you can hold them through Sunday. If we find out it's going to be on Monday for, again, this San Antonio or Phoenix, these are the teams that we've now picked up at the beginning of the week, then you move on and you pick someone else up on Thursday that still has 2 games left the rest of the week. Because you may end up going from a team, let's say Phoenix loses to OKC on Wednesday. That seems like the most likely NBA Cup scenario. If they're off the next 4 days in a row, you have a number of teams that play twice in there. So you go from a 0 to a 2-gamer. So now you've used a move on Phoenix to get 2 games the first 3 days. You use another move on that roster slot to get 2 games the final 4 days. 2 moves. That roster slot is now a 4-game week, which is likely at least 2 games better than what you started with, and preferably more like 3 games better than what you started with. Because if you had a 1-gamer, like a Utah Jazz stream level guy, so like a Kyle Filipowski or a Yusuf Nurkic or whatever, and you pivot using 2 roster moves to get 4 games that week, 2 moves, you added 3 games played. That's nice. That'll play. It's not my fate. I like to try to gain 2 moves every time you make a roster move, but that's hard to do. If you go from Utah to one of the teams that has 3 games this week, then you're just done with that roster slot. You've made 1 move. You've added 2 games to your week. You're good. What I would not do is pivot to a team in the NBA Cup that only has 1 game scheduled so far. So like Oklahoma City, like odds are they're going to beat Phoenix and get a 2nd game scheduled this week. But let's say the Lakers would probably be the one. They're playing the Spurs on Wednesday. That game's a coin flip. Lakers probably win it, but the Spurs are good with or without Wemby. And the Lakers, like, they could sleepwalk through a game. You never know. They're doing less of that this season, but we've seen it happen once or twice so far. Much better when they're rested. So, like, odds are the Lakers win, but it's definitely, I mean, what is it, 60-40? If the Spurs win that game, then they end up with a 3-game week. And the Lakers might not play until Monday, which would end up meaning that you move to a team that had a 1-game week. But if you have a Lakers stream level guy, not that they have many of them, but like, let's say you have Rui Hachimura on your team for some reason. You shouldn't, but let's say you do, or Jake LaRavia or something like that. You could probably hold through their game on Wednesday and find out if they're going to have a 2-game week before you do something with it. But if they lose that game and they get rescheduled for Monday, then you move off of them. You could even move off of them if they get rescheduled for Sunday, if you just like a different streamer better. So that's why this week is different, because you kind of have to treat it backwards. You start this week by finding the best schedules, because there are so few of them, and then you figure out who on your team you can dump to sort of roll into those good schedules, to roll into Indiana or Minnesota or New Orleans or Sacramento. By the way, New Orleans, Sacramento, I would argue a little bit better because they go Monday, Thursday instead of Monday, Friday, because then you could actually still make a move. Let's say you have someone on, you pick up a Sacramento streamer like a Malik Monk, and let's say he doesn't do well on Thursday and Monday. Maybe you want somebody that plays Friday, Sunday instead of just Sunday. You could use a roster move to gain 1 more game even with that one. This is the week where you might want to consider streaming more than 1 roster slot, because as we just talked about, if you move from a 1-gamer to a 3-gamer, that's the only move you need to make in that particular roster slot all week long. So you know your team better than I do. Look at your team, find out all your players that are not going the first 3 days this week, and which of them are the most expendable. Actually, you know what? Let's do this little exercise together. I'm going to go to my head-to-head team, which unfortunately is not like I really like a lot of the guys on this team, so it's going to make it tougher for me to stream, but I'm going to have to find a way to do it. And my most expendable players are probably Neemias Queta and Asar Thompson, and Ryan Nembhard are probably my three most expendable players. Queta's a one-gamer. Nembhard is a one-gamer. Asar is a one-gamer. So my three most expendable guys are one-gamers this week, meaning I'm probably going to have to dump at least one of those dudes and stream his roster spot. But here's the other side of it. If I look at my opponent and find out that they also have some one-gamers, maybe I don't have to stream quite as hard. Maybe I have 3 or 4 one-gamers on my team, but maybe they also have 3 one-gamers. So if I just turn, let's say, Nembhard, honestly, I got to look at that team and figure out who's the most expendable for that particular head-to-head team. If I decide that Asar Thompson is the most expendable guy on that club, then I could actually stream that one roster slot and use 3 moves on that slot this week. So take Asar, turn him into someone on Phoenix or San Antonio, because those are the 2 teams that play twice in the first 3 days this week. They're the only ones, by the way, Phoenix, San Antonio. So they have a big early week advantage. I could pick up somebody that plays on Thursday, and then I could pick up somebody that goes Friday, Saturday. So I could take my Asar Thompson, one gamer, use 3 moves, and turn him into a 5-gamer. Then I have 1 move left over in case I want to do something else. So that's a way that you could use a bunch of moves on one roster slot. Go a Phoenix, San Antonio team for the first 3 days of the week. Go anybody that plays on Thursday. There's 8 teams that go on Thursday. And then go any of the... There's quite a few teams, actually, that go Friday, Sunday. There's like another 8 teams that go Friday, Sunday. So that's a 1 roster slot streaming possibility. If it's like that club where I only wanted to use 1 roster slot. I'm in a different head-to-head league. I've talked about this at times over the years on the show. Like, it's my goofball league where it's 11 category. But let's just pretend for a minute like it's not an 11 category league, and I've got streamable guys on it. Who the hell they are is not really important. If I'm going to stream 2 or 3 slots, then I have to be a little bit more judicious. I'll take my 1-gamer and I'll flip him to a 3. I'll take another 1-gamer and I'll flip him to a 3. I'll take another 1-gamer and I'll flip him to a 2 early in the week and then a 2 late in the week, and then that's my 4 moves for the week. But again, thing to keep in mind here as we wrap up the program, this is a 1-week week. The only week during the season, or the only period, I should say, during the season where Yahoo combines 2 is trade deadline week. All-Star break week. Sorry, not trade deadline week. All-Star break week. That's the one where they combine 2 weeks in a row because it's really like 8 days where there are games happening over 2 weeks. This one, there are 13 out of 14 days where games happen. It's just that not that many games happen on like 8 of the 13 days where games happen. So period 8 is week 8. What did we talk about? 8 to 17, 21. There's only like 28 games over this week, which is a little bit more than half the normal number. So every game played is beyond critical. If you can stream 2 roster slots and add an extra, 5 or 6 games played, you almost definitely have to do it. And if you do it, you almost guarantee a win. Because if you beat your opponent by 4 games played this week, you're probably going to win the week. You're probably going to win the week if you beat them by 4 games played in a 50-game week. But in a 28-game week, that's a huge advantage. You're dominating. Wrap it up, B. All right, you can get access to that Google Sheet, as I just mentioned. It's in the show description. NBA Cup week. It's a weird one. Following week, by the way, every game this week counts for fantasy, even the ones that aren't scheduled yet. Next week, next Tuesday, not the 9th, the 16th, the NBA Cup Finals. That's the only NBA Cup game that does not count for fantasy basketball. That is the 83rd game for 2 teams. We'll talk about that on next week's preview show. Monday, I'm gone all day. There will not be any additional podcasts. There will not be any additional tweets. It's the rare day where I am fully gone away from computer. I apologize in advance, so there won't be a big Dan Besbris weekend recap show on Monday. We'll probably do a little bit of that on Tuesdays. We kind of like roll a bunch of recaps together. Luckily for you guys, Kingy almost always has his waiver wire show, so he'll get you set up with the hottest pickups for the week ahead. This was your streaming preview show. I hope it shines some kind of light on a very weird week. Again, remember, the 8 teams that play Tuesday, Wednesday, 4 of them, the winners, play on Saturday. The 4 losers will play either Sunday or Monday. So Sunday, which currently has 8 games listed because the schedule makers have like preset one game on that day, the Eastern Conference losers basically in the NBA Cup. I think it's going to be Eastern Conference losers on Sunday, Western Conference losers on Monday, but I don't know for sure yet. We won't know until after the games are over on Wednesday how many games there are on Sunday and Monday. Sunday this week, Monday next week. We'll talk about it all week long. Don't worry. We'll bring it back up again. This is not the only time we're going to mention the NBA Cup. I'm Dan Besbris. Find me on Twitter at Dan Besbris. Thanks again to FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook. Thank you to you guys for liking, rating, and subscribing. And thank you to those of you that have 99 cents. Please consider it. You can get your questions answered that way, or you can just support the cause. Whatever's cool. Appreciate you guys. I'm Dan, Old Man Squad. Later.